Alright, you may be wondering why I have Facebook open in the background. There's a good reason for that. Now we're going to take a look at adding a second tone color to it, a lighting effect using a complementary color. And to do that, I've brought up an example of Facebook here. If you look at this image here, the way there's the white tone over the top of this, you see it again here, you see it here in this image right here as well. And then if we look at DirecTV, uses a similar feature. We see it here where they have the layer tone over the top, and also here where they have the layer tone over the top. We're going to look at doing that, but first I'm going to look at doing that with a complementary color. That can be done with layers of white and opacity, but I want to explain to you a little bit about complementary colors. So if I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add like a little sunburst across the bottom here of light similar to those logos. I want a color that complements this red real well. So if I look at my base color, my base red here, if I come up into the color swatches and I switch it here, most of you are going to be set on RGB sliders. I switch it to web color sliders. All colors have a number definition. FE4141 is the complementary to this red. How do I know that? Well, I color dropped this red. I took that red and I put it in colorschemedesigner.com, and I put in the base red of FD0202, and it brought me up these complementary colors. So we can also look at a wide range, triads, tetrads. It gives us color schemes to work with that work based on color theory and the color wheel. And so looking at the two that I had to work with right here, this was maybe a little too light. So the FE4141 versus FE7373. So let's take a look at both of those real quick. So I'm just going to add a layer real quick, and we're going to drag an ellipse. My screen recording. Sorry about that, but I have my screen recording icon that you can't see that was blocking this. I'm going to add an ellipse right here real quick, and we're just going to go edit, fill. We're going to use foreground color and see what kind of contrast that gives us right there. And that's with the 4141. Now I'm going to throw an ellipse over here real quick. I'm going to change this color to the 73. I'm going to fill that with the foreground color. And so what I have here is based on the color wheel, on color theory, on actual design theory, not on my taste or my eye, are two colors that complement the natural red that's in here. So I can pick which one I'm going to work with. I liked the 41 a little bit better because I can lighten that up with opacity on specifically that layer. So that's what I'm going to work with. So I'm just going to delete that entire layer real quick, get rid of those, make a new layer, and I know that I'm going to go with the FE4141. If you want to get an exact color, you can always get an image off the internet, a picture of someone, a shirt, color of a stream, and you can color drop it and get the number out of it, and then put that into Color Designer and find a set of complementary colors for your design that will work. Again, I'm going with the reds and blacks to stay with our school's color theme. So now let's look at building the basic light halo for this. And again, I'm going to go Command minus a little bit. Again, a couple real easy ways to do this probably would be to just, again, use an ellipse tool and kind of get the rough shape I want. And then I can go ahead and fill that with a foreground color. I can see what that would look like at a smaller level. And then if we do this, it's going to require a decent amount of erasing as well to get the desired portions. So I'm going to go ahead I'm going to go ahead and what I'm doing is I'm dragging this line tool up because I want the center of the light. I don't want it to quite hit the H. So I'm going to delete that layer and do that again because I know I want my light to roughly be I probably want it a little bit wider than that. So I'm going to come out here and try to go even on both sides so it's proportionate. And bring it down just a little bit. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that. Edit, fill, foreground color, Command D. And so that's my shade that I want. So now we need to go ahead and we need to get rid of the portions we don't want. A lot of tools, again, if you're a fan of the eraser tool, a polygonal lasso, whatever you like. But again, because of these nice smooth curves, I'm going to look at using the pen tool to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this layer over here beneath this layer. And what that does, that gives me some markers here to follow that I know that I want to use for my pen tool. So I'm going to come over here. I want to get rid of about right there. Center. Right there. Oh, that's a little too high. I want to capture just a little bit more of that red on this side than I do on that side. Dead center, and then about right there. I'm going to come again back over here. I'm going to grab the Convert Point tool. And I'm going to go ahead and use this to kind of shape along that line that I want right there. Bring that back down. And I'll convert this right here as well. Again, I want to pick up a little bit more of the shadows on this side because of the white light hitting this area a little bit more. I want that to overpower that just a little bit more than the other side. And I'll grab this. Select. Gotta make a path out first. Make it into a path. And then delete. So now when I bring this in layers back to the front, it's going to be placed exactly where I want it. So let's go ahead, do the same thing to get rid of the rest of it. Command deselect on that. I'll switch back to my pen tool. And I want position kind of along there. About there. About up to there. About to the edges. Get rid of what we don't need. Okay, I'm going to use my convert. Sorry about I have some icons that are showing up on my screen that aren't showing up on yours. I have to keep chasing around. Convert point tool. Again, come back over and just try to put a nice smooth curve on that to follow the shading. Bring that back down like that. Same thing over here. a nice, smooth, very subtle arch to follow that shading. Convert this path. Delete that. It looks like we've deleted everything, but when we bring that layer back over the front, we now have that shading effect. And that shading effect is standing out right now because we're going to do a little bit of work to it. We're going to work to blend it in because it's just a base coat. First thing we can do is we can come over to layer fill. This is very important because if you're working about the opacity of a layer, we want to look just at the fill. I can go ahead and I can drop this and make it look a little more subtle and make it blend in. Some of our lighting effects later are going to do that. So I'm going to drop just a little bit on that for now because we'll come back and add that in. And now what we're going to do is we're going to blend the edges a little bit using an eraser tool. So I'm going to come up here to the eraser. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab a soft round. A hard round would be fine, but here's the key to using this. You want to make sure you have a layer selected first. You want to make your eraser fairly large in size, but you want to take your hardness all the way down to nothing. The reason for that is what that's going to allow me to do now is that's going to allow me to really just feather the edge of it a little bit. Watch what happens here as I kind of take it over that edge. It's just kind of blending that and softening it a little bit. It's kind of giving that a little bit more of a gradient look, especially up here in this corner. I want to hit that corner a little bit more and just kind of blend that in. Now notice how that has kind of a gradient flow to it without having to use a gradient tool. However, if I would have had the hardness up on the eraser, it would have immediately cut it out. So by running that hardness all the way down, that allows me to do some kind of soft blending. And I like using the bigger brush with the soft edge because as I'm taking the edge off here, it's giving me that nice smooth gradient so that when we go back in and we actually do add some gradients and lighting effects to this, that will look really nice. And we can come back over here and bring our opacity up a little bit more, get a little bit more glow on this portion of it. So now we've added a little bit of lighting effect to our logo. Would have liked to maybe have got that curve a little bit more natural. It's a little unnatural, but certainly for a screencast that we'll have to do for now.